Welcome back to Clark's Ring Rants. Let's get straight into today's video. So yesterday we had a great little unification fight down at Super Featherweight. We had Emanuel Navarette, or is it Navarrete? I never know how to pronounce his name, versus Eduardo Sugar Nunez. This was a good fight. It was an interesting matchup on paper. A lot of people thought Navarrete going into this fight, he might have seen better days. He'd got one win in his last four. He was getting up there in age. They didn't know if he had it anymore. They didn't know if he had it. And then you've got Sugar Nunez, the up-and-coming, dangerous, all-action power puncher. 27 out of his 29 wins coming by way of knockout. But one thing I did notice when I looked a bit deeper into Nunez's record and his resume, who would those knockouts come against? With all due respect, the caliber of opponent that he'd been knocking out and stopping wasn't exactly the cream of the crop, I think it's fair to say. And interestingly enough, those two fights that had gone the distance, they came in both his world title fights. So that was a bit of an ominous sign going into this fight for me. A bit of a bad omen for Sugar Nunez. Maybe he's one of these guys, he can knock out the people at the lower level, sort of the fringe level, the journeyman level. And then when he steps up to true elite world level, maybe the power doesn't translate, maybe the skills, maybe the delivery system to land those knockout punches just isn't there. But that did catch my attention before the fight, and I was a bit like, that's interesting. Navarrete, we know him, he's a freeweight world champion. He's been in there with some really good fighters. He's come up from super bantamweight, and now he's at super featherweight. He's beaten good guys. He's a lot more proven than Sugar Nunez, and I think his experience played a massive part in this fight. What was obvious from the first round was Navarrete was a lot bigger than Nunez, and that was obvious. And then Nunez did this thing where he's coming out, he's trying to box slick on the back foot, and it was a pretty tough watch, to be honest. And he was trying to be slick and move around, and Navarrete was having absolutely no trouble tagging him from the opening bell. And this became a bit of a pattern of the fight. And then whenever Sugar Nunez did try to break the distance, he was just getting tagged right hands, counters, hooks, uppercut, you name it. He was getting hit with pretty much everything. And I think after about 6 rounds, you could have easily had Navarrete winning 6-0, a clean sweep. Now, Navarrete is an interesting fighter. He's not the easiest on the eye. He's not the most technically sound. And to be honest, he looks a bit crude, flat-footed and amateurish at times, but I'll tell you what, it works. Freeweight world champion. He's beaten Sugar Nunez easily here in this fight, and it's just a bit of an optical illusion because you see him with these awkward feints. He's sort of stumbling over his feet. He's sticking a jab out. It just doesn't look natural, but it's working. It's a bit weird. I've never really seen anything like it, and he began to bust up Sugar Nunez. Nunez got a bit more aggressive in the second half of the fight. I think his corner said, hey, what are you doing? This back foot pound shot Pernell Whitaker impression, it's not going to work. You need to step to this guy. He began touching him up to the body a bit, and he looked like he had some success. He got Navarrete's attention, but it wasn't enough. And I think by around round 8 or 9, his eye was cut. It was starting to close, and he was getting beat up in there, really. I think the fight should have been stopped a little bit earlier than it was. The writing was on the wall, but he battled on, and the doctor looked at it again at the end of round 10, but then the fight was halted at the start of the 11th round on the doctor's advice. And it was a good decision, save him for another day. He was getting bust up, beaten up in that fight, and there was no way for him to win. His eye was completely shut. And Navarrete becomes a unified champion for the first time in his career. So big congratulations to him. Not sure if it was an upset, but Sugar Nunez definitely didn't perform as well as I think some people thought he would. Like I say, he came in with that knockout record. Kakache didn't really fancy the fight with him. He was fancied, and then he went out on a bit of a whimper. What I think might have played a bigger part in this fight than people realise is Sugar Nunez spoke about how he idolised Navarrete and it was an honour to fight him, and he almost seemed to be in awe of him in there. He seemed to be starstruck. I think he gave him a little bit too much respect. You saw him like patting him on the back, laughing at the end of every round. It seemed like he had a little bit of imposter syndrome in there, like he thought he didn't belong. He was starstruck by Navarrete. And I think that translated into the way he fought him. He gave him way too much respect in there. And he was never able to implement his own game plan in there. Navarrete sort of had his way from the first round. He beat him up, he busted him up, and then he stopped him. So it's going to be interesting to see how Sugar Nunez recovers from a beating like that. Not just from a physical point of view, but a psychological point of view. There's going to be some scars there. He was beat up. He was sort of little brothered off. He was old manned. Be interesting to see how he recovers from that and what he does next in his career. It's another L for Eddie Hearn, unfortunately. His man taking a beating. He's had it rough in the last few weeks, hasn't he? Old Eddie. But I'm sure he'll bounce back. And what next for Navarrete? There's guys like Oshaki Foster there. We've got Jazza Dickens versus Kakashi coming up next week. I'm not sure if they'll want to go near it. But it's interesting. He's a unified champion now at Super Featherweight, and he's breathed life into his career. He was 1 win in his last 4 before this, but he's back now. Navarrete is unified Super Featherweight world champion. But what did you think to this fight? Were you disappointed by Nunez? Do you think he was a bit overrated? Or did Navarrete just exceed expectations, and was he always a level above Sugar Nunez? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.